The Conservative Party may be in power, but they're in a state of high turmoil as a result of deep divisions over the budget and Europe. And this week, we'll see whether George Osborne, the Chancellor and second most powerful man in the country, can survive. Janan Ganesh, it's a lot more serious, this mini crisis that has blown up in a matter of days, involving George Osborne at the centre.
I think it's been the worst week for the government since 2010, actually, when David Cameron became Prime Minister and George Osborne became Chancellor. And it unravelled incredibly quickly. If you think back only 7 days, we're on the eve of the budget, and things were difficult for the government, economic projections were getting worse, but really the government seemed pretty unassailable. Within 48 hours, by Thursday night, the budget was already having to be explained as just a proposition, not a hard fact. By Friday night, Ian Duncan-Smith, the Welfare Secretary, had resigned. Over the weekend, there's been speculation about whether the budget might actually fail in Parliament, and we'll find out that tonight and in the coming days. The speed with which this has melted down has been really shocking.
So how much is this of George Osborne's own making, errors on his own part, because he had to retreat only a few months ago over on welfare?
Yeah, I mean, it's entirely of his own making, because not only has he miscalculated on the issue of disability benefit cuts, which is in the budget, not only did he miscalculate on tax credit cuts, which is what you're referring to last year when there was another climb down, but really going back a number of years, and this has been the FT's position as well for a number of years, he has boxed himself in with various fiscal positions.
To trap Labour.
To trap Labour. So committing to massive cuts in welfare, but not committing to cuts in ring-fence departments like foreign aid and healthcare. Aiming for a surplus.
Yeah, he wants this surplus by 2019-20.
Yes, I think it's going to be about £10 billion. The IFS, the think tank, the OBR said today that he has a 55% chance of making that, so a touch and go chance of making that surplus. But by boxing himself in with all these different rules, he has left himself with an incredibly small slice of public spending that he can realistically cut, and that's why he's gone so big on welfare, which is provocative.
So let's go back to the big political picture. I mean, George Osborne is almost umbilically tied to Prime Minister David Cameron. He's also a strong card in the European referendum debate. So is there any chance that David Cameron could cut him loose?
I think it's unlikely. I remember George Osborne being in trouble in 2012 after the so-called omni-shambles budget where he cut the top rate of income tax. There was speculation about his job then, and it seemed ridiculous to everyone within Number 10 because the bond is so strong between Prime Minister and Chancellor. I think David Cameron knows that if he loses Osborne, he himself suffers a grievous wound.
But there is talk about Osborne being moved to the Foreign Office. And of course, the interesting thing is that actually there are only two government jobs that really matter, Prime Minister and Chancellor. Is that right?
I think so. I think now, in fact, since the days of Margaret Thatcher, the Prime Minister has been his or her own Foreign Secretary. And really the person who had the job in the Foreign Office was almost a functionary or a go-between. So I think it would be quite a demotion in status from Chancellor to Foreign Secretary were George Osborne to make it, unless he could suddenly transform the job into something much more substantial. There has been speculation about him going to the Foreign Office, going back a number of years, and in retrospect it might have been a good idea, having won the election last year, to go out on a high and swap jobs.
Any chance that he can succeed, David Cameron, or do you think this weekend will probably go down as the moment that his chance is past?
I think he has a very slim and increasingly thinning chance of becoming the next Tory leader. The one thing he has in his favour is the previous pattern of his career, which has all been about extreme highs and extreme lows. As recently as last summer, after the very popular summer budget, he seemed a shoo-in as Tory leader. He's now being counted out. That's his one chance that the previous pattern of his career repeats itself, and 6 months from now, after maybe a referendum win on Europe, he's a contender again.
And Boris, very quickly, still in that big picture?
In the big picture and probably privately laughing himself to death.
Janan Ganesh, thank you so much.